Everyone always gets this one wrong, and it's funny because it's still following the basic rules that we need for the word and, right? And is a conjunction, and I have a whole lesson on these conjunctions, and I definitely recommend watching it because a lot of people stink at this rule. But the main rule that we're supposed to remember is that if we have a comma and a conjunction, like a comma and then the word and, that is used to join two sentences. But notice, we don't have a comma before that and, right? It's not part of the choices. It's not part of the part right before the blank. So that's not what it's doing. So if we have no comma, what's the reason for that? That's when we're using list we're using and to join a list of two things. So I think that's very important for understanding what the right answer is going to be. So let's take a look here. Quantum particles of light, photons, provide an unhackable means of transmitting encryption keys over networks, as attempts to observe particles in quantum states will invariably alter the particles and dismantle any information they transmit. Notice what I did. I skipped that part in the process. Why? Because I want to emphasize the list that as attempts to observe particles in quantum states will do two things. They will invariably alter the particles and dismantle any information they transmit. Now, if we leave out that in the process extra phrase, we would have no commas here at all, right? Because again, the and is not being used to join two sentences. It is being used to join a list of two things. So then what are we going to do with this in the process? It's unnecessary. We can't use a dash because that would completely separate out the second part of the list. And then we wouldn't really have a list. We just have an and for no real reason. Why would we put a comma after the and? We would be breaking off, again, that second part of the list. We can't really do that. We're showing that that piece would be extra, but it's not. It's a list of two things. You need both things. Same thing with choice A. Why would we be breaking off this extra part here? It doesn't really make sense to me. So what does make sense is putting the in the process with two commas, because now it's saying that that's the extra piece, right? And that's why I was able to read the sentence without it, is it's just an extra clause that we're inserting, maybe to add a little emphasis to kind of what we're saying in the list, but it's just extra. The first comma tells me I've started my interruption. My second comma tells me I'm leaving it and I'm back to the main sentence. This is not necessarily how I would have punctuated this. In fact, I probably would have put that in the process phrase all the way at the end and said something like, attempts to observe particles in quantum states will invariably alter the particles and dismantle any information they transmit in the process. That to me feels a little nicer because it's more smooth, but we don't have that kind of control. But the reason we put commas around that piece is the same reason that if I were to put it at the end, it's still like an extra thing. So when we move it to the beginning, we are just saying, kind of like we do with the word however sometimes, that it can go anywhere in the sentence. And in order to show that it's this extra piece, we need the two commas surrounding it. So again, this is a tough question. A lot of people get it wrong. But I don't think it's that hard if we know the rules. We should be able to look at that and in the choices and instantly predict that this rule is about the conjunctions. When do we put a comma with conjunctions? That really kind of sets the tone for the entire thing and keeps me on track to eventually get to choice B after I've sorted through the other choices.